Thank you very much. The gentleman yields back his time. Mr. Mfume, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Thomas, I want to start with you because I just find some of what you said to be absolutely fascinating, almost unbelievable. And the main thing is the inability, and maybe Ms. Kiskell, you can touch on this also, to be able to get tax IDs, social security numbers, or other identifying information that we've got in a number of different silos that you can't seem to get access to. I mean, the Chairman and I both think that there's a way to break through this. We just need to know where the log jams are. Could you talk to that for a minute?
Yeah, so the data silos are a problem. I appreciate that. I've talked about it, you talked about it, it's very clearly identified. An example of the Social Security Administration with the death file is that they feel like the Privacy Act is making it difficult for them to share that with everybody. Now, privacy is an important concept, particularly in the age of AI, but there's opportunities that the Congress could look into of modifying potentially the Privacy Act or putting in exceptions that allow the data to be shared specifically for the purpose of fraud investigations. That seems to be a fairly important component of some of the silos. Some of the other silos you've seen in our studies at GAO also have to do with incompatible or old networks, modernizing the IT infrastructure of some agencies so that the data can be accessible to tools like Do Not Pay, as well as some of the analytic tools that the PRAC uses. Keep in mind that there are opportunities to improve the data and make it more available, but the technology is old and does not have the ability to share information back and forth through APIs or other methods that makes it very difficult. So those are some of the things we've talked about and made recommendations about.
And what was the dollar amount saved as a result of the Social Security model? Was it $4 billion?
I think it was like 4.7. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's tremendous opportunity there to use this data together. But it's a matter of these are organizations that operate separately, have their own infrastructure, and need funds to modernize, and then make the sharing more available. In addition to the statutory changes that we've talked about.
And can you talk a little more about this Digital Services Academy? It's a concept, I assume, but for those of us who are not intimately aware of it or familiar with it, help me to understand. I think this is about creating the people who will have the proper training to be able to do what's necessary.
Yeah, so you can think of, I like the chairman's idea of storytelling, and kind of what does the ideal AI-enabled analyst look like? Well, it's somebody who's trained both in anti-fraud skills and investigations, but also knows a lot about data science, computer science, as well as artificial intelligence. And so in order to train those people, we need to set up an opportunity for them to get the training and leverage their already interest in being a public servant. So Digital Services Academy could provide that. Think about upskilling analysts that already have the interest, the passion to work in this anti-fraud domain, but also just want some additional analytics, data science, and AI skills. That's the concept behind it. Help people develop this this training. One of the challenges of this field, though, that we see in other technology fields is that there's quite a bit of competition with private sector. They're obviously very interested in people with these skills as well for different purposes often, but that's a challenge for hiring people in the federal government.
You talked about while we get to where we want to go, that while we are where we are, that there's certain behaviors that sort of go outside of the norm that should call the attention to potential fraud that's occurring. I just need you to take a few moments to talk about what those behaviors are and why people who are administrating programs don't understand that.
It's probably a better question for my colleagues, if that's okay.
Ken, go right ahead.
Happy to take that. So what we're looking for, again, is patterns, trends, things that are unusual. And it all starts with a risk assessment, similar to what Dr. Thomas said about the GAO Fraud Risk Framework. When we talk about fraud, that's a broad term. So what specific concerns you have? Eligibility, identity verification, their financials, their claims. And once we nail down what exactly we're most concerned about, we can determine what is expected, what's normal, what pattern, and then we can automatically, and machine learning can do this much better than a human being, can say that the frequency of claims, the frequency of applications is abnormal. That's 3 times what we would expect on a Saturday night. The frequency of claims from this geographic region, from this zip code, from this IP address is not anything we would ever expect. And again, a lot of this is based on statistics and data modeling. So it's not a human being sitting there saying, this looks unusual. It is literally a machine who pops it up and says, this is 5 times what is expected. And again, once you start with the risks and then use the model, we can be much more efficient in addressing this issue.
My time is up. Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me one other question here. Are agency heads being told this? I mean, is there any training? If I'm the secretary of this or the administrator of that, I know I'm responsible for all this money, and if there's fraud, waste, and abuse, I'm going to have to account for it. But do they know what to look for in terms of abnormal behaviors, whether it's zip code or anything else that you mentioned?
Sure, I can't speak to the entire federal government, but I can tell you I spent the last 29 years as a fraud investigator, mainly in grant fraud and public corruption. And there are agency officials at all levels that are intimately interested and aggressive about wanting to know from OIGs. Every single OIG does an outreach program where they teach those willing to listen that these are the red flags, these are the concerns. But the biggest single challenge, sir, is that this is an agency responsibility. And so they have to have commitment from the top to the bottom, tone to the top, to address the risks, identify the risks, address the risks, and seek out that. And we do see that in some places in the government, but it's not across the board.
So a mandatory requirement would help us get to where we want to be.
Yeah, and if I can just add, because at GAO we do look across the government, and you're absolutely right, the mandatory requirement that we have recommended, and we recommend to all agencies, is they build an analytics-based fraud risk analysis team so they do the work that my colleagues are talking about. And we make these recommendations, we track these recommendations to make sure that where they do respond to us, they implement them.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.